Hi, I'm Angelo Costanza and you're watching Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV.
Here with Cody after a really disappointing 2-0 loss to Perth Glory tonight. Cody, I'm going to start by asking you, did you expect us to be as bad as we were tonight, or did you think that we had it in us to pull something out of our rear side and maybe come away with a draw at the very least, or did you expect us to be on the back foot as often as we were and lose in the manner that we did tonight?
No, I didn't expect to lose, especially by 2. I expected minimum at least a draw, but I thought, I mean, we haven't came in with the best run of performances, but I thought we might be able to sneak it away, but I was at least expecting a draw, so a little bit unhappy.
Paul Izzo, the goalkeeper's had a really poor run of form recently. Are you concerned by how well he started this season and the decline that he's had, particularly with his feet? He's struggled immensely when it's come to distributing the ball and launching attacks for us. Are you worried about our goalkeeping situation at the moment? Because obviously, having had the likes of Eugene Galegovic in the past, it's not an ideal scenario to be struggling as much as we are with Paul Izzo in goal at the moment. What do you think?
No, you're not wrong there, but I mean, even Eugene had his mistakes here and there, and I like to be optimistic, glass half full. I like to think that, form is temporary, class is permanent, so I like to hope that he can bounce back.
Yeah, it's been a particularly bad run of form, but there's been a few issues off the park as well. We had the whole debacle yesterday with Marco Kurz coming out saying, "Where's my contract? Where are the discussions?" He hasn't heard anything from the owner, Pierre van der Poel, who supposedly promised him that they'd be getting together. It looks like apparently tonight they're going to have that meeting, but given that we've been in a poor run of form, we haven't played well since that Brisbane Roar comeback nearly a month ago, or over a month ago I should say now, and with this coinciding with all the stuff going on off the pitch, are you just about ready to throw the towel in this season, or do you think we might be able to surprise a few people and put a run of form together?
My mum never raised no quitter, mate. No, I reckon we could put some run of form together, and I believe he deserves at least a talk about contract negotiations. About we bring silverware back to Coopers, so I believe in our but I believe in our ability to be able to put some good performances in towards the end of the year to, really put us in a nice position in final series. Yeah.
A few mistakes made across the board tonight. Obviously, we spoke about Paul Izzo at the beginning. His distribution, kicking that ball out to straight to a Perth player, which resulted in a deflection that he was unable to deal with. And then Isaias, of all people, with a not putting the right weight on his pass, and Michael Moroney turning possession over and us conceding. Does this say anything about where the players' mentality is at the moment, knowing that our future seems to be a bit uncertain, or was it just a bad day?
I was going to say, I mean, the play does sort of portray how the management is going. There was a bit of lacklusterness as we were going forward. There was a bit of a stray as we were moving the ball around the pitch. So I do think maybe some of the antics on the side would have, played a part in our performance. But I like to hope as professionals that they'd be able to just shake that off, and hopefully next week we could bounce back with a result.
Cody, tell us a little bit about yourself as a supporter, your history, how long you've been coming, have you been a member, are you currently a member? Talk us through your history as a fan of this club.
I've been a fan since, to be honest, I couldn't remember the year. I've actually played a game on Hind Marsh when it was Hind Marsh, Port Pirie versus Riverland. That was quite some time ago, so I've been coming to games for about 6 to 7 odd years now, and absolutely love it. The vibe is great. It just seems to keep growing, and everyone seems to get louder. It's amazing, and yeah, I'm just going to keep continuing coming to the games and keep bringing that vibe.
You let us know that you're an optimist, so therefore where does that leave you with your expectations going into the rest of the season? It felt like a few weeks ago that the top 6 was a shoo-in for us. Doesn't necessarily feel like that anymore at all. We've got Newcastle breathing down our necks, but nevertheless, where do you expect us to finish between now and the end of the year?
Newcastle, we've got some talent. I mean, Petrachos he knocks them in from anywhere, so then breathing down our necks ain't the best thing in, you know, ideally, but I believe that we can still push between, I don't know, 4th, 5th, and hopefully, you know, push finals and give it a good run, because we don't just want to walk in there and, you know, give it 50-50, want to give it our best, 100%, and hopefully we can deliver.
Cody, brilliantly spoken tonight. Thanks so much for speaking to us at Purebred Reds, Adelaide United Fan TV. Enjoy the rest of the night, and we hopefully might catch you again sometime soon.
Sounds good, mate. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Here with Tony after the 2-0 loss to Perth Glory. Tony, it hasn't been a particularly exciting last month being a supporter of this football club. Were you expecting something a little bit better tonight?
Yeah, I was hoping they'd play a little bit better. The last 3 or 4 weeks, their passing hasn't been that well, and they seem to hesitate going forward in most games. When they don't do that, they seem to be getting scoring chances. But the last, at least the last month, that just hasn't been happening.
We had the story come out yesterday regarding Marco Kurz's future as the coach of this football club. He wants to have some negotiations undertaken for his contract, but it doesn't seem like it's come about. Now the performances haven't been brilliant, but this is a manager who in 2 years probably looks like he's going to get us into 2 finals campaigns, 2 cup finals, and he's won one of them. Is it a little bit concerning that for whatever reason the current owners of this club are choosing to stall the contract negotiations with Marco Kurz, a successful, passionate Adelaide United manager currently?
Oh, I think so. I think they've let him down. They're letting the state down, not only him. Obviously sometimes you get owners that don't buy the teams for the right reason, and I hope that this is not the case with the ones we've got now.
Started fairly sluggish tonight, players pointing fingers at a lot of each other throughout the course of the game. It just didn't seem like we were all on the same page tonight. Obviously Scott Galloway had a chance early on, but from that point it looked pretty well like a fairly sloppy performance, and certainly not one that we can be proud of. Perth didn't look like that to work that hard to win tonight. For you, what went wrong tonight? Was it a case of individual mistakes? Are players perhaps not focused on really achieving anything between now and the end of the year, given the uncertainty in the background? In your opinion, what's going on at the moment?
I think they've lost a bit of confidence and they're hesitating too much when they go forward. And I guess, especially against the good sides, you hesitate and that's death, because they close you up pretty quick.
We've got Central Coast Mariners coming up next time out. Now they lost 8-2 to Wellington Phoenix, sparking a change in manager. Do you feel like there's any reason to be positive going into that game against the Mariners next time out?
Well, if they don't play with a bit more confidence, I think we could be in a bit of trouble there too, because we're not taking our chances. But not only that, I don't think even tonight we created too many chances.
Team selection wise, did you have any issues with how he set out? Would you have perhaps started Nikola Miliusnic and opted for that pace out wide, particularly playing on the counter attack? What are your thoughts there?
I would have definitely, and even Ilson I would have started with him. I'm not sure why, but he doesn't seem to be starting with his best side lately, and that could be a problem, but obviously he's got his own reasons for doing that.
And Tony, between now and the end of the season, what are your expectations? Do you feel like there's any chance that we might come up and do anything at all between now and the finals, or do you feel like the players are just probably waiting to just finish the season off and see what happens during the off season and not really care about much in between?
It's hard to say. Sport's a funny game, and a day is a long time sometimes, and if they can get some confidence back and stay in the 4, I reckon if they get back to anywhere near the form they had at the beginning of the season, they could probably beat any side out there.
Tony, thanks so much for speaking to us, mate.
No worries, sir.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Standing with Chris from the Red Army after a 2-0 loss to Perth Glory. Chris, I really feel like coming into this game, the one thing that we could have hoped for is that despite everything going wrong off the pitch recently, as well as our form not being great, maybe they had a surprise in store for us. Maybe we're going to come out and get a heroic kind of draw, or really just at least a positive performance. It didn't look like we really kind of showed up today. Scott Galloway with an early opportunity, but other than that, we look to be really on the back foot throughout the entire contest. Where to go wrong for you tonight, first of all?
We're just not positive enough going forward. Like from Red Army, we could see everything that was going on the pitch, and just too many back passes, not enough going forward. As you said, Galloway had like our best chance before Goodwin's header was saved, but that was in the 90th minute, and 2 sort of clear-cut chances in 90 minutes is simply not good enough, and we're just too negative going forward, too negative overall. Another mistake, I think it might have been 2 defensive errors that led to 2 goals.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, Izzo gave it away, and then Isaías for the second goal, and this has been a theme all season, just basically giving away goals from defensive mistakes, and our attack going forward is not good enough. It's not good enough in defence, and not good enough at all.
As a player at the moment, you're looking at what's going on. There's no indication that Marco Kurz will even be properly, spoken to or negotiated with, as opposed to who his replacement might be if it goes that way. We've got no idea who that could be. There's 8 players who are coming off the end of their contracts. If you're a player tonight, what pressure is there really to perform? Because it's pretty easy to sort of just go hiding and accept that things are the way they are, and not really go out there and try and make a difference off your own boot. Do you think that's a genuine reason to be concerned at the moment as a player? Because unless you're one of the younger guys that's really trying to make a case for themselves, these players, there's 2 teams coming into the competition within the next 2 years. As Australian players, they can rest assured they're going to get picked up by someone 90% of the time. In a crisis like this, should we be concerned by whether the players actually have any real pressure to come out and perform?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if players who aren't on a contract, have a contract ending at the end of the season, they don't know if the manager's staying. So there is absolutely no motivation to perform, because some players could like the manager. Perhaps if players don't like the manager, that's their sort of cue to go and perform. But if I was players like Milosevic or whoever who was coming at the end of their contract and liked Marco Kurz, then if there's no certainty as to whether he'll be here, then what is their motivation to be performing at the moment? They don't know if they're going to be offered a contract by the club, and if the club doesn't want to go and be proactive and maybe try and re-sign these players, or if they're waiting for a new manager or whatever, it's just, there's no players will look at this and just it will affect them mentally. Whether they want to go and perform or whether they just couldn't be bothered, it happens, and this is now coming to a point where players are just not performing, and I think there are serious problems with the mentality of the team at the moment.
Standing here with George after a rather disappointing 2-0 loss to the Perth Glory tonight at Cooper Stadium. George, now I know for a fact that you've been coming to watch this team since they were around, since they first were formed. You've seen the good and bad times, but right now I'm going to go out and guess that you wouldn't deem this to be a good time.
Not at all, mate. No, it's not looking good in terms of the way the club's structuring up. The way, not just on the field, I'm more concerned about off the field at the moment. I'm not convinced that these new owners are all they're set out to be.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this. So there are a few fans who are defending the ownership, saying that, well, there's a longer term picture, so you need to take that into account. Personally, I don't buy that. I think if you've come in and bought a club, you want to get on the front foot as early as possible. You want to please supporters. You want to make the stakeholders happy. Weighing everything up, how do you really assess the performance nearly a year into the new reign under Pierre van der Poel, and we don't know who else because they obviously want to be anonymous? How do you rate it?
For me, it's a joke. I do not understand how you can go into your first transfer window weaker, or you come out weaker than what you went in. We're playing our right back at centre back. We don't have a backup centre back. The strike, look, we bought a strike, it didn't work out. Sometimes signings don't work out, but we came out a lot weaker than we went in, which is a real shame. And in the way they're treating Marco Kurz, if in any industry, if anyone requests a meeting for you for a contract talk, you don't wait 4 weeks to get back from them. That's just plain rude, regardless. So, and look, in terms of the way getting on the front foot, look, I'd rather, if the club's in debt or they're trying to clear debt, I'd rather them be honest with us, and I'd understand that more as fans, rather, because they just look like they're not.
Is there a way back, or do you feel like we're going to stagnate even further? How do we go about trying to bring fans some kind of optimism, some kind of hope? Because it just seems staggering that we can go from 2 rounds into the season winning the FA Cup to now being in a situation where we're almost being viewed as the most recent laughing stock that the A-League has to offer.
I wouldn't say we're a laughing stock yet. Just wait till we drop out of finals, which wouldn't be the worst thing. It might stick a rocket up some people's backsides. But look, Adelaide's a winner's town in all sports, and if you want to bring people in, you've got to win. And we saw that with the FFA Cup final here. I wasn't here, but it was a fantastic night. And we got the fans out there. 3 years ago, there were 50,000 people at Adelaide Oval watching us win a championship, and there are only 7,500 here tonight, which I thought was quite a good crowd for what we're producing at the moment. So I don't think anyone knows what the answer is. Obviously, winning helps, but it's difficult. I don't think anyone really knows what it is. If I had the answer, I'd give it to you. I don't. Yeah.
I just want to finish by asking you, you're a passionate man. You and your entire family come out and watch the team regularly. Just give us an overview as to your personal affinity with this club and how long you've been coming out to Cooper Stadium, as well as away games throughout the entire existence of the club.
I remember Dad bringing me to I was at the first season when we beat South Melbourne here in extra time in the NSL. So yeah, it's been a few years, but I don't know. It's just you love it. You keep coming. No matter how poorly they're going, you keep coming back. That's the beauty of supporting a football club. You got to, and as frustrating as it is, you got to do it through the good and the bad. And but yeah, I guess when it's times like these, you kind of just go home and put on the 2015 grand final and remember the good times. But no, look, good and bad, you're always back every week. And no, it is a good club. It's just got to. There are a lot of problems that we've got to kind of iron out. But I'm fingers crossed the owners prove me and a lot of other people wrong, and take us into the future well.
George, thanks for fronting up season in, season out, whether we're playing well or not. It means a lot to have long-standing supporters. We hope times in the future are better for you.
Thanks, mate. All the best.